Hey everyone, and welcome to this episode of the Mic'd Podcast. I'm Mike, a hairdresser of over 20 years. One of the best parts of my job is the conversations that I get to have with all of my clients. We talk about anything and everything and invite you to listen in as we get mic'd up for today's conversation. On this episode, we get Mandy in the chair. Mandy is a personal health coach who started coaching when she was over 300 pounds. She had her clients join her in the journey to lose over 150 pounds. Mandy is an inspiration, and I hope you enjoy her story. Alrighty. So here we go.
Ready to go.
Are you ready for this?
I'm ready.
Okay. Well, welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for being here.
So glad to
I'm
be
excited
here.
I'm excited to meet you.
They see the pink hair. They're like, oh, she has pink hair.
All right, this is going to be fun. They see the bright color.
Let's
and they're
hope
like,
not to
this
let
is
you
it.
down. Let's not let you down, guys.
So let's, because here's the thing. You're in this chair for Adam, the film guy, the audio, the guy that's behind the scenes. He spoke exceptionally highly of you.
No pressure.
I mean,
no pressure.
he essentially said, like, here's my Lord, here's Mandy. He was
I really talked you up. Really talked
snap.
you up.
So I hope
Not going
everybody's
to
ready
feel
for
pressured
this.
at all. Not going to feel pressured at all.
No. But I was really excited to have you here because as I kind of looked at some of your social media and what you're doing and stuff with your life, the one part that I think really I was like, I got to ask her about this because I'm really interested. My wife has gotten into health coaching and doing stuff, and
cool.
you yourself are a health coach, but
Yeah.
your story as to why you got into being a health coach is kind of where I wanted to start, like, because you haven't always looked like this.
No.
And I mean, so kind of give us like your little background,
Yeah.
like, yeah.
Would love
Tell us
to.
about you.
Would love to tell you.
Who
I would
is
love to
Mandy?
tell you my story. So it's one of my favorite things to share. So I can talk about this all day, but I'll try to not do it for 5 hours. I think where I like to start is about 6 years ago, I started a vision board. I read the book called The Success Principles by Jack Canfield. Have you ever heard of that book before?
I have not.
It's very good. The guy that wrote Chicken Soup for the Soul.
Okay. Now that one I've heard of.
Yes, everyone's heard of that book. So he wrote a book called The Success Principles. Actually, it was way longer than 6 years ago because my daughter is 7. So it was like 9 years ago. I started a vision board. And we were reading this book, and the book, if you don't know about the book, The Success Principles, it's pretty much helping you figure out what you want in life and who you want to become. And I just remember I worked at Utah Valley University, and we were reading it together as an office. And I was just sitting there in the conference room being like, I'm not going to be here in a couple years, because it awakened my soul to be like, this is not my life passion. Like, this is not what I'm going to do. So I started, but in the book, he talks about vision boards. So I started a vision board, and I put on my vision board that I wanted to dream house, right? The generic things you put on a vision board, like the dream house.
Nice house, nice car.
Yeah. I put on there to weigh under 200 pounds, which was like you saying, I'm going to become a unicorn in a week. Like,
because
literally.
At one point, how big, like how much did you
at that
weigh?
point, I weighed about 330 pounds.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, yeah, I'm going to weigh under 200 pounds. Good one. But I put it on there because I'm like, it's a vision board. And then I put on there that I wanted to have a boy and a girl. And I didn't really want to put that on my vision board because I was scared, because I didn't want to get disappointed. But I did it. I put it on my vision board. I wanted a little boy and a little girl. And then I left my vision board on the ground, and I didn't really look at it for a little while, and then started meeting with fertility doctors. Long story short, ended up becoming pregnant. Couple months later, found out I was having a little boy and a little girl.
Twins?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then went through I learned about morning. This is a fun story. I learned about morning sickness. The Queen of England at the time, her butcher was my husband's really good friend, Tony the butcher, and we stayed at his house, And we were driving in his car, and all of a sudden, I discovered morning sickness. And I threw up all over him, all over me, and like the whole car. And he was like, "That's okay, love. At least you're not drunk. At least you got a good excuse." And I was like, "I love you."
Okay, hang on. Who were you in the car with?
The Queen of England's butcher.
Oh my.
They've both passed away since. He's passed away, sadly. He recently passed away, and he's one of the most amazing people on the planet. But she's obviously passed away. But I was in his car, and I'd never had morning sickness, and I discovered morning sickness all over everyone. And he was so sweet. And every time they drove by that spot it happened, they would just chuckle. But so anyway, I went through pregnancy weighing over 300 pounds, almost being 40.
So this is just
High risk
recent.
pregnancy.
Like this isn't
7 years ago. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
8 years. Yeah. Coming up on 7 years ago. Rosie's birthday's in two weeks.
Okay.
So high risk pregnancy, lots of doctors. We found out about 2 weeks before they were born, we found out that Charlie, also known as Pirate Ranger, had Down syndrome. And we were okay with that. I was especially okay with that because I was like, what a blessing. Like, he's going to be amazing. But then about 3 days before they were born, we found out that Charlie had high drops. And
what is
high drops is like this fluid in their lungs, and we all could have died. And I gained 60 pounds in 3 days. So I weighed almost 400 pounds. And they did an emergency C-section. And they were... immediately after they were born, Richard tells a story that Rosie didn't want to come out. Like, she came in and out a few times. She kept trying to fall back in. She didn't want to come out yet. She wasn't ready. She's also known as Viking Destroyer. So Rosie and Charlie, Pirate Ranger and Viking Destroyer. And Charlie was immediately rushed to the emergency room because we found out he actually had Down syndrome. He had June syndrome.
So is June syndrome different than Down syndrome? Like, what's the difference?
So June syndrome, there's only like less than 1,000 cases in the world of it. It's like a genetic issue, and it's like a dwarfism of the lungs. And so he lived for 8 days, and we finally had to make the hard choice as parents. So we had to we just had to let him go. We had to take him off support so there was no quality of life for him. So we made that hard decision, and we got to hold him once, and he passed away in our arms. We only got to hold him once, but it was really hard for me. And Rosie was in the NICU for 2 months. And I was eating Kneaders. Across the street in Provo, there's the Kneaders. And like every day I ate cheesecake and bread, broccoli, cheese soup, bread bowls, and everyone brought me food, and I just ate and I ate and I ate. And
ate your emotions.
I ate my emotions because actually, that's another story, but I was at the time a food addict, an emotional eater, and a people pleaser. So long story short with all that, 2 months of Rosie being in the NICU, and I finally brought her home, I looked into her big, she has these huge, gorgeous, huge eyes, and I just looked into her big, beautiful eyes, and I was like, what am I doing? At that time, I was 320 pounds. My ankles were so swollen, I couldn't even walk. Every night I'd have to elevate my feet so I could walk the next day. And I was like, I want my little girl to grow up with a healthy mommy. And so my why was born at that point. I always tried to lose weight my whole life. I've been overweight my whole life. I was over 300 pounds all of my 30s. But now I had my why. Yep. I had my why power.
Kids are great motivation.
Yeah.
That is 100% for sure.
So why power, yeah. And then what happened is, so after a couple weeks, I decided to, I knew I needed to lose weight. And I didn't want to get weight loss surgery because I know many people that have gotten that and gained back their weight, and I needed to lose weight. And I knew I needed to work on this thing up here. Mm-hmm. And so I started this program called Optavia. Don't know if you've heard of it before.
I've heard of it, but explain what they do, who they are.
Yeah, so Optavia is a holistic health program that focuses on healthy body and healthy mind and healthy finances. And so I wanted to do something that worked on this noggin because 95% of the issue is up here. So if we're dieting, you're essentially sitting on a chair with one leg. Like, it's not sustainable. So I started Optavia. A week into my journey, I made a crazy decision. Mike, you won't believe it.
What is this?
I decided I was 310 pounds. And I was like, you know what? I need more accountability because I got a long way to go. And so I decided to become a health coach. But I almost didn't do it because I was like, who would want a 300-pound health coach? They're going to make fun of me and they're going to be like, who the hell are you to?
Well, and that was going to be my question.
Yeah.
Because
who the hell are you to be a health coach?
From somebody like, if I was to look for a health coach, I mean, you got to look the part. It's like people with hairdressers, they want you to look like you actually care about your hair.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Was that a struggle? Like,
No.
was it hard building?
So
clientele?
what I did is, at first, I started just sharing my story. And I wasn't doing it for any other reason other than I needed to be healthy for my little girl. And so I was not doing it for a business. I was doing it for being healthy for my little girl. So I started weekly accountability posts. So every single week I'd post my transformation. And week after week, people started asking me like, I want to do it with you, girl, like, let's do this. So I started coaching people. And so I've been coaching now for almost 7 years. In January, it'll be 7 years. I've coached over 1,000 people and I've lost 155 pounds. Snap!
It's like that's a whole person.
I know.
That is a whole person.
I know. And I'm like tantalizingly close to the next part of my journey. Because when you reach your goal weight, a lot of people think that's the finish line. And it's like, no, that's really the jumping out. That's kind of like, that's like the beginning of your journey. And that might, some people listening to this, that might like piss you off because you're going to be like, seriously? Like, no, that's the end line. And it's like, well, if you have that mindset, it means that you will probably gain back your weight because you're never going to be done. That's the reality.
Well, I feel like that's what diets, it's like, oh, I want to lose 10 pounds. So you go on a diet, you lose the 10 pounds. And then as soon as the 10 pounds is gone, go back to eating what I wanted to, or go back
have
to
a pizza party to celebrate you lost your weight. It's like, that's not a good idea. So yeah, I've started, for the first time, you might see me at the gym with pink hair. I've started strength training and doing spin classes, and kind of a cool story with spin. I've taken a few classes, but I took a spin class when I was over 300 pounds. And after like 5 minutes, I got off the bike and I left the room and just cried, because I'd have moments like that where I'd feel trapped in my body. Like my body was a prison. Mm-hmm. But then I got to do the whole class and it was like easy. And I was like, holy, this is amazing.
So after for something like that, like you get up, you leave the class, like what is it that like caused you to get up and go back? Because
I didn't go back until I lost 150 pounds.
Okay, but I mean, so at that point, a lot of people would just be like, screw it, I'm done. I'm never gonna get there. Like, is this still in the back of your head? You're just like, I've got to do this. Just maybe this isn't the way for me right now. Like, I'm not going to do spin classes. I'll go do something else.
Yeah, at that point, I was just doing diets.
Yeah,
I was always doing diets, but I also, believe it or not, I was the most confident 300-pound girl you'd ever meet. Like, I had the cutest clothes. My husband thought I was cute. I had so many friends. That was part of my issue, was I had a lot of confidence. I had body love, and it wasn't for me. It wasn't about my weight, which is crazy for most people to hear, but it was about my health. It was about my little girl. So I honestly always felt beautiful. Like I've always been confident. It was more just my health.
Yeah.
So sometimes people will be like body love, and they'll use that kind of as a shield, so it almost gives them an out. And I'm like, I don't care who you are. It's not healthy. It's not healthy to be overweight, and I don't judge anybody, I understand.
Yeah. We all have our struggles.
But yeah. It's hard.
But I mean, I guess the big thing is like, having an experience where you're in a cycle class and you can't finish it would be really deflating for a lot of people, to the point that I feel like they would maybe even just give up and be like, it's too hard. I mean, I've talked to my wife numerous times about, like, we live in a world now where everybody wants a simple solution.
Oh yeah.
Give me a pill. Give me
shot.
Give me a shot. Give me something that I don't have to change anything.
Yeah.
But health coaches, it's all about changing your lifestyle, changing your mindset, changing everything.
Yeah.
And so are you finding, like, what is your struggles with health coaching? Like, is it difficult to get people to jump on board, or is it just, what do you feel like people need? Just somebody to motivate them positively, or what's the key?
I think people need to be ready. They maybe need to have a defining moment like I did. I don't talk people into doing things. I have a lot of people that I've connected with, and I stay in touch with them every month and send them, a little quote, or just let them know I'm there for them. But I also understand that you have to be ready, because they have to do it. I can't do it for them, And so it is an interesting industry, because people have to be ready. But most people that come to me, they've been watching me for a few years. And when they finally reach out to me, they're ready. Yeah. Not everyone, but a lot of people. They've watched me. And here's the thing, though, Mike. Like, I haven't been perfect. I've regained back 50 pounds. I regained back 30. I was in England for 6 weeks because my husband's from England, and I fell in love with chocolate croissants. And my husband's father passed away, and it was a stressful time, and I gained 30 pounds in chocolate croissants while I was a health coach. So it hasn't been a perfect journey, but that's the journey. It's not about being perfect. It's about, this is so cliche, but it's so true. It's not about being perfect, but it's being perfect and never giving up.
Yep.
That's what it's all about. So I've not been perfect, and I'm pretty vocal about that. But I talk a lot. If anyone is listening to this and you struggle with anything I'm talking about, feel free to follow me, because I share a lot about, like, tools that have helped me. Because I did, like I shared, I did gain back 50 pounds. I got stuck for about 4.5 years. I lost and gained the same, like, 5 to 10 pounds. And it felt like I was, like, fighting myself. But the last 6 months, I've gotten unstuck. And now I'm, like, finally on that final part of this journey.
So is it mainly, like, I mean, obviously, you've got a good support system that's encouraging you. What are some of the things that you would say somebody could do if they're thinking, man, I need to make a change? Like, reach out to a coach? Or is it like, how do I even explain this? Is it work on you first, or find a support staff that's going to encourage you and then continue working on you? Does that make sense?
Yes, totally. So the program that I partner with, the approach is pretty cool, because it's like the weight loss portion is like putting training wheels on a bike. Like, it's teaching you how to ride a bike, so that when you do learn how to ride the bike, we take off the training wheels and then you ride on your own. So while you're in the weight loss phase, you have training wheels, because you have, like, a really easy program to follow, and it's super goof proof and it's super simple. So while you're losing weight, you effectively have bumper bowls, or you have training wheels. And so we work on the mind. We focus on the mind and the habits. So when you do reach your goal, you're good. Like, for me, I truly mean it. And this is the first time I could truly say it, is I'm confident I'm going to be able to keep my weight off, because I've done the work. And being a health coach, definitely, you're 5 times more likely to keep off your weight if you're helping other people,
So was there something in mind, like, when you started this whole journey of, like, going from 330 to where you are now, was there something in particular?
165.
165?
Yes.
Was there something particular that you're like, I'm not able to do this now as I currently am, and when I get to this point, this is like I want it. I mean, it's something like, I'm going to put on a I don't know,
a leotard,
leotard
80s
or
leotard.
like, yeah,
I
like,
totally
was
want
there
to.
something like that
Yes,
you're just like,
yes.
this is my like,
Yes.
when I can get to this, that's like victory one. And then you keep setting goals. Like, what are the things
Yeah.
that you couldn't do
Yeah.
that now you feel like, okay,
We
I'm
call
good.
those non-scale victories.
Non-scale victories.
So I think this is kind of sounds ridiculous, but I think it would be fun to just those 80s leotard outfits with like the leg
Jane
warmers
Fonda?
and stuff like Jane Fonda. Like I totally want to like in the new Barbie movie, those like rollerblading outfits they wear. Like I want to be able to like wear one of those and just look hot in it and be like, and maybe go roller skating with it.
Do it.
That's kind of, but that's more silly. Like, I feel like I'm living right now. I'm living those dreams that I've had of being able to take a full hour spin class and also would lift weights that day and feel fine. To be able to go on a hike and hike up to Timp Cave and not even be out of breath, like be able to talk the whole time. And even just keeping the weight off it's literally like, I feel like I'm at Disneyland, like, cause I've tried to do it my whole life. And it's like, I'm living this dream life that I never really thought I could do. Cause it's so hard, cause we all have to eat. You have to always eat, and sugar is as addictive as cocaine. So it's like, but you have to eat. So it's like, it's hard.
That's great. So what are your like daily, like, do you have a daily routine of stuff that you're like, workouts, like obviously you talk about it being in the mind. Do you have like meditations that you have to go through and do to make sure that you're constantly encouraging yourself?
Yeah.
Or do you ask like, cause you're married, right? So do you ask your husband like, hey, every day, will you just give me like you can do it kind of a thing? Or is it like, what's your daily take?
Well, I think coaching helps with that because like I post things and people like, I have like all these cheerleaders that cheer me on. So I think that helps me a lot because I feel like I have like thousands of people that are following my journey and like in my arena of people just, you got this. Like I feel like I have like an audience of people that are just rooting for me.
Yeah.
So of course that helps.
So it's a positive of social media.
I'm like, I actually feel called to be like a beacon of light to bring people happiness. I live in a place called Mandy land. Okay. There's no politics. I just live in Mandy land and it's happy there and positive. And I just want to share that with people to be like, there's goodness. Yes, there's bad things out there, but there's so much goodness. And I just try to spread that goodness with everything I do. Positivity is my number one strength. And I do see the world through Mandy land. It's my filter. But I do an hour of power every morning where I meditate. I read. We have an educational system that really helps you rewrite your story with health. So I read those books. I read a lot of personal development books. Like I said, I meditate. I work out. I even have Mandy time, which I get like 1 hour a day where I get to do anything I want. And I like knit and I play my guitar and my ukulele and I roller skate and I take bubble baths and it's a good thing. So I don't know, self-care, it's good.
See, but I feel like, this is just me speaking for myself. Like taking that time sometime is difficult.
Yes.
I'm speaking from the guy's perspective, but
yeah.
Sometimes I feel like, oh no, I've got to do this for the kids or do this for my wife. And I neglect myself. So for somebody that's neglecting themselves, what do you
I was the queen of that. I was a queen because I'm a people pleaser. But I read this book called The 12-Week Year, which my husband says stop talking about it because I'm like, I get obsessed with things. And I like meet somebody in the street and Richard's like, who are you talking to? And he's like, she's probably talking about the 12-week year. Like I tell everyone because it's changing my life. But you set goals. And one of my goals is because I was losing Mandy because I was a mom and you lose who you are as you get older. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of why I've been doing that more. So that's kind of a recent thing that I do is Mandy time. Okay. But I think personal self-care, if you're not taking care of yourself, you're not going to have confidence to be able to reach your goals and dreams, you know?
So do you hear a lot of excuses then? What are the excuses that people give? Like, I can't
They
do
feel
that.
guilty. They feel guilty. They feel like, I think mostly it's guilty because.
Why do you think we feel? Because I'm
guilty.
Why do people feel guilty about taking care of themselves? Like, I feel like now we're starting to kind of come into an age where maybe the younger generation is like, it's all about me.
Yeah.
But it's the old, like, once you get into your 30s and on, it's this weird, I don't even know how to describe it, but we feel guilty about doing things for ourselves because I don't know if that was a generational thing, if that was just like we feel, but why do you think a lot of people feel guilty about doing stuff for themselves when it truly does make a huge difference inside here and here?
I think it's our culture. I don't think Europe has this issue. Europe is all about taking naps, taking time off. Like my husband takes off, he's from the UK. And when I was in my full-time job, I wouldn't take my vacation time. I would have like weeks a year that I didn't use. And my husband was like, what are you doing? And then he would ask to take out time off and his coworkers are like, what are you doing? You're taking time off? Like they're like thinking he was crazy. And I think it's in our culture. We're just not used to taking care of ourselves. We're not used to indulging ourselves. So I think people think of it as indulging. And I also think the biggest part though, Mike, is that they've lost their inner child. Because I think the childlike part of us plays, but we lose that because we get driven and we're all about what we want in life. We're career obsessed, and we lose who we are in it. I think that's what happens.
You know what's interesting? So last night, my wife and I went karaokeing with a group,
That sounds so fun.
It was great. We had a blast. But we were talking about it after, and we said, this would have been a different experience had alcohol been involved.
Oh, yeah.
And we were talking about, my wife had mentioned, she's like, I think that if it's done responsibly, you can't go and get just smashed.
Right.
But if it's done in the proper portion, it brings you back to that childlike state.
Yes, and that's why you have fun
and that's why you enjoy it and you can let loose and you can get up and sing. It's I'm 10 or whatever your song would be. But it's interesting that you said that because that was something we had just talked about. And we watched this group of adults that we were with, and it was very awkward at first.
Yes.
And it's almost like people didn't know what to do. They were testing the waters. They didn't want to get into that.
Well, inhibitions, right?
Yep.
They had their inhibitions. They had their shields up.
Yep.
Right? Because they care what people think. I think that's what happens.
Okay.
But also, I've never drank before, but people often ask me if I'm drunk because I'm just always hyper. They're like, they just assume I'm drunk or high because they're like, you can't just be this way. But I think the more you do play and you get in the habit of playing, you're kind of high on life.
That's true. I mean, I'm not condoning like go out and drink alcohol or whatever, but it was just.
That's not a bad thing.
If it helps.
Yeah.
For a moment, why not? Go for it.
Yeah, everyone has their own, what works for them. So, but I think if you can get to a place where you don't need alcohol to have fun, I think that's a good goal to have, is that you can have fun without getting drunk.
Well, and that's the part is like, again, at the very beginning, it was weird and awkward. I mean, we were there for 2 hours.
Yeah.
It took about an hour into it before everybody was like settled down. And it's why can't we come into that situation and just be how we were an hour into it? Why are those inhibitions to be like, hey, I don't even care, like whatever,
Because kids don't care. Like my daughter, do you have kids?
I have three
yeah, they don't care. They don't care,
I think about this all the time, how nice it would be to not care. Again, get back to that point where it's like, I would love to get back to that point where I really don't care what.
Yeah.
But that's such a hard thing to do. Like.
Yeah.
But why is it that we do care? Like, I mean, what changes from the point when we're a child and can literally be at a park and walk up to somebody and be like, hi, I'm Mike, you want to play? Like,
I'll be your best friend.
It's like,
Yeah.
I can't remember the movie. It's like something happened and they're like, are we best friends now?
Isn't that Elf?
Yes,
Elf?
that's what it is.
No. It's Step Brothers.
Oh,
Step Brothers.
Stepbrother. Okay.
Are we did we just become best friends?
Yep.
Like, why do we as adults like have this weird inability to just, I mean, you seem very good about it. Like, you're very easy to talk to. You're just like, whatever, you are who you are.
Yeah, but most people are not that way. I'm learning. Like, there's like, I don't know if you've never taken the Strength Finders test. It's really fun because it helps you identify your strengths. And like your top 5 strengths are like your superpowers. And I think it's really good to know what your strengths are, because then you can kind of like live your life based off of what you're really good at. But I think it's a mindset thing. And I think a lot of people also, to answer your question, why are people like that? Why do people care? Because people have been abused. People have been made fun of. They've had life happen and they're jaded. But I think if you can just have fun, and I think when you get in your 40s, it becomes easier. The older I get, the more I'm like, I don't care. Like, every year I get older, I care less and less.
See,
I think that's why old people get bright colored hair, because they don't care. They're like,
I've heard all that changes when you hit 50, but
what happens when you turn 50?
you just don't care anymore.
See?
You're like, nobody's looking at me anymore.
I know,
It doesn't matter.
I'm turning 45 in December, and I'm already getting that. Like, I'm like, you know what? I'm Mandy. I'm happy with who I am. I don't need to prove to anybody who I am, So, but I think it's a good thing. I do think if you're struggling with that, I think really give it some thought to be like, even if you spend like 5 or 10 minutes a day, what you do is you stop and you ask yourself, okay, you get 10 minutes. What do you want to do? And it's kind of funny because often your mind will go blank and you'll be like, what am I supposed to do? But like, let your subconscious tell you what it wants. Be like, okay, all right, Mike, you got 10 minutes, go. And then just pause and listen to your inside self. And your inside self will tell you what it wants to do. It might say, go ride my bike for 10 minutes. It might say, I don't know, play a video game for 10 minutes. Or it might say, whatever, it'll lay down for 10 minutes. But it really helps if you ask yourself what it wants. That's helped me a lot.
Okay.
It's kind of weird at first.
I was going to say, it sounds like such an easy task, but that inner self on some people is kind of a bully,
Yes.
Just like, I know you want to do this, but.
Well,
Yeah.
I think there's also that, there's another element to that too, though, especially if you're in a relationship, right? Because your spouse might not be on board with that. Sometimes it's like, I want to go do what I want to do, but then you're getting like guilt trips. And I think something like that's happening to people all the time, I'm sure. Your girlfriend or your wife is like, why aren't you doing this instead? Or
They give you a honey-do list.
right, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so then in that instance, you have other responsibilities. You have other family, like you have kids, you
Yeah.
have a spouse, you have a partner, you have any of these things that I guess it's all about scheduling, right? Like you got to just
Communication.
scheduling.
And if you can work it into your work day, you don't have to get a buy-in. Just add it into your, like, people take smoke breaks. It's like your smoke break for yourself. It's like you just get in the habit of giving yourself 10 minutes and you get to do whatever you want. Like, it's kind of fun, You'll be surprised often the things that people suggest to do, the most basic things are often the best. Because that's why we don't do it, is it's like, it can't be that easy. And it's like, try it, It's kind of fun.
It definitely is it's definitely something that I think everybody should challenge themselves to try to do. Because I think a lot of people don't take that time. I mean, I remember having a job before, and I mean, I still do it now with all the hair people. they all come first, and I'm like, man, I really need some time off, but this person calls and needs an appointment. So I'm like, well, I'll squeeze them in and I'll give up my own personal time.
Yep. It's a word that none of us like.
No.
It's called boundaries. I hate them.
Yeah, somebody said the best word you can learn to use, not always, but every now and then, is no.
Yeah.
You can say no sometimes.
Yeah.
So.
It's hard. It's hard to say no to people. It really is. I don't like to say no to people, but I mentioned at the beginning that people pleaser and like food addict and emotional eater. And a couple months ago, I was identifying myself as a people pleaser and as a food addict and emotional eater. I was struggling with setting boundaries because I'm a people pleaser. And I was really struggling with my weight because I was a food addict. And all of a sudden I had like this really strong feeling that just said, let those labels go. And as soon as this is going to sound, again, it's going to be an example where it's like, it's too simple. It's too simple. But I literally in my mind, I pretended like I burned those words, people pleaser, food addict, and emotional eater. I threw them away. And all of a sudden it didn't.
So they're not in your vocabulary
no,
anymore.
If I start to say it, I stop myself and I go, no, that's not me anymore. So that helped me a lot, is just to let go of that label. I was able to not use it as an excuse of why I was doing it,
Okay.
Because I really wanted to set boundaries. I really wanted to let go of food addictions, but I was still labeling myself as that. So if you let go of the label, it's kind of amazing, It's like a magic wand.
All right. So what are your other tidbits of life information? You're going to change my life today. I'm going to go home and take 10 minutes to myself.
Yeah. Well, I say, okay, if you haven't seen the movie Joe versus the Volcano, go watch it. I think it's on Netflix.
Isn't that Tom Hanks?
Yes. It's a really weird movie. But in the movie, they're all these people are sleepwalking in their life, and they're just like zombies in their life, and they're not awake. And they wake up in that movie, and I'm I think wake up. If you're not happy in your life, stop settling for it. You have control over your life, and stop it. Just wake up. And this is so cliche, but life begins when we are willing to get uncomfortable. And when we step outside our comfort zone, that's when life begins. So if you're super comfy in life and you're kind of unhappy, that's a sign. It's time to read The Success Principles by Jack Canfield and let him help you to identify what you want in life. What do you want to have? What do you want to do? What do you want to be? He kind of started my child whistle.
There's your hidden talent.
There's my hidden talent.
Do it again.
I was waiting for it. You might not hear it with the...
Hey, wait, go.
Hi guys, I'm a whistle. So there you go. But I'm really big on that, is wake up and stop being a grown-up. Stop taking yourself so seriously. Stop worrying about what other people think, and just have fun and go after what you want.
So do you ever worry about tomorrow? Do you ever worry about
Oh yeah.
I mean, because I think it's once you're in your 40s, you start thinking what about retirement?
I'm excited about tomorrow,
but
I can't even sleep.
But I guess the question, this is just me. I'm gonna have all my I'm gonna lay everything out.
Do
on the
it,
table.
lay it out.
But no, when you get to that age, you start thinking what about retirement? Am I gonna be okay through the years when I can't work? Right now, I can function pretty normally, But,
you're a healthy chap.
I'm
You're
okay.
healthy. You're a healthy, dapper chap.
I mean, I ran 5 miles the other day.
Good job.
But I walked like a 100-year-old man the next day. But But so like that, just let it go and just be.
Am I allowed to put my glasses on now so I can see you?
In a minute.
Okay.
Okay,
Okay.
let me finish blow drying.
The life of people with glasses. You know what I'm talking about.
But like, yeah, like, is there no? How do you balance being excited about tomorrow, but also being prepared for tomorrow? Because
Okay.
I feel like sometimes that idea of just do whatever you want now puts a damper on what's to come if
Yeah.
you're not actually prepared for what's coming.
Totally.
Does that make sense?
Totally.
Like, I hope that's.
Totally. So I live in the, okay, so I used to be kind of always in the future. Like I'm like, love setting goals and dreams. I'm like a big time, I love dreaming. So I was living in the future and I was like, almost like not living in the present. So I've been trying really hard to become more present. So in order to create what you want in the future, you have to be present. You have to do the things now. You can't just hope for it. You have to take the action. So I think that's why my language sounds so like, but don't you worry about tomorrow. It's like, well, yeah, that's why I'm doing what I am now. But I am very crystal clear on what I want to create. And so I'm living in the now. I'm not living in the past. I'm not living in the future. I'm living in the now to create the future I want. Okay. So that's kind of how I look at it. But everyone's different. Everyone's wired differently too.
Yeah. No, that's.
I don't know if I answered your question.
No, I mean it's a worry of a lot of people. Like, I mean, I'd have to look up the stats on it, but they say like they talk about the generation coming up now, how they're never going to be able to afford a house.
Right.
That's basically getting out of their means. Like, but again, maybe that's not what it's all about. Maybe it's not about the old way of get a good job, buy a house, pay it off, live. Maybe it is just enjoy the money you're making, set a little bit aside, and I don't know. But I guess maybe I'm also thinking about it only in the terms of finances.
Yeah. I think like if you have a vehicle, like for health coaching, I don't ever plan to be done, ever.
Yeah.
I will probably health coach my whole life. I'll be like a grandma on the phone. Hey, kids. But my dream is to create a legacy for my daughter so I can kind of hand it over to her. And then she and I can do it together. But yeah, I feel like there's a balance between. So there's this image that I recently learned in this leadership course that somebody's walking, okay? They're walking towards their goals. They're walking towards their dreams. They're walking forward, right? They're like kind of like moonwalking it. They're grooving. They're like, got it. I know what I'm doing. And then all of a sudden, a voice from the past messes with it. And it's like they stop and they turn around and they look back. And it totally keeps them from what they want. Because it's like causing doubt, it's causing fear, it's causing shame, embarrassment, and then they stop. And so that's where I'm saying you want to be focused on the future, what you want. You want to be like crystal clear, take aim for what you want. But the past is what is the biggest fights us, I feel like. Yeah. And so I think it's kind of letting the past go, focusing on the future, but being in the present. So it's like a little bit of, it takes some intentionality, and it's like you have to start practicing at it, to get to that. And there's a lot of good books that help in the personal development world to help with that,
So this is, if you could recommend, what would be your top 3 books that somebody should listen to if they want to make the change? What's your top?
Yeah.
And then
Okay, so The Success Principles by Jack Canfield. I know you'd never imagine that, me suggesting that. And then The 12-Week Year. I can send you the names and the authors. I don't know off the top of my head the author names. But these are the books that have changed the trajectory of my life. And then Atomic Habits. I think those 3 are really good for taking, creating that sustainable change. Mm-hmm. And also, if I plug in one more, The Fearless Mind because the mind is the biggest thing we got to work on, and the fearless mind really helps you to get past those fears. So I'd say those ones. Okay. What about you? Like, what book has like changed your life?
Oh man, honestly, I think, well, doing what I do, like being a hairdresser, I think How to Win Friends and Influence People has been a really big one for me.
Yeah.
But also, Crucial Conversations.
Oh, I love that book.
Has been one
it's
that
so good.
has, when you're talking to people, if you're, again, I'm in the same boat that you are. I was people pleaser. I'm struggling with, I've made quite a headway to where I'm really trying to push through.
Good job.
Not like setting those B words, the boundaries.
Boundaries, I know.
But
it's a 4-letter word, right?
But no, I think Crucial Conversations really just helped as far as like, just say what you want to say and leave it at that. Like not trying to argue a point. It's like be very clear. Mm-hmm. Say it in a way, and then the principle of which I learned in counseling and stuff, listen and repeat. Like, if I say something to you, or like, somebody could be, I could be telling you that the sky is blue all day long, but you hear the sky is red. And if I ask you to repeat it and say, well, tell me what I said, and you're like, oh, you said the sky is red, I'll be like, well, no, that's not really. Let me say it in a different way. And you keep saying, like, speak and repeat until the point is made. And Crucial Conversations was really a big one for that.
It's such a good book.
But I mean, when it comes to communication, conversation, stuff like that, like, you have to be.
I feel like for us, I can speak for both of us, 'cause it sounds like we both struggle in this. And I know a lot of people do, hence why they wrote the book, it's Crucial Conversations is like, I'd almost rather have surgery than to have a crucial conversation. Mm-hmm. Like, I'm not kidding. Like,
well, it depends on what surgery. No, just kidding.
Well, I don't even know. I'd rather have a root canal than have a crucial conversation, because I'm like sweating, I'm shaking.
Yeah,
it's so uncomfortable. But like other people, like how I'm spouting out dreams and Mandy Land and all this stuff, people are like, for me, that's easy. But crucial conversations is like, I'd rather have surgery. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, so we all have our things we struggle with, but that book is really, I agree. If you struggle with like not knowing what to say.
Yeah, even if you know you have something that you want to say, but you're too afraid to say it.
Yes.
Like, just go. I mean, it's an easy read too, and I'm not a big reader.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm going on a vacation soon, and one of my goals is to actually read a book from cover to cover on the whole vacation, because I've never done it. Nice. That has been something that I have never achieved in my life, and I'm like, I'm going to do that. I need to slow down.
Yes.
But Crucial Conversations is an easy read, so even somebody like me that doesn't read often, it's one that I could pick up and read in 2 days. If you're an expert reader, probably a day, probably even an hour.
So one thing that somebody shared with me recently that really helped me with Crucial Conversations is she said, I have crucial conversations because I care. I care, and that's what it was. I care enough to have crucial conversations. Mm-hmm. That helps me because I care about people so much. So if I can be telling myself, I care enough, I care. Because I think in my mind, I think they're mean, and I think I'm making it about myself almost. And it's like, no, I'm making it about me. But if I'm really if I care enough about somebody, I care enough to have that crucial conversation. That helps me.
Well, I've talked about this with other people before. It's like, this is where it's, if you truly do care about somebody, being the yes man and just saying yes to whatever they think is not the way to approach it. If you truly do have feelings for somebody, or you care about their well-being, tell them the truth.
Yeah.
Regardless of if it's going to hurt or if it's, it sucks, but.
It's so hard.
Seems so counterintuitive sometimes.
I know. It's so hard. It's like, it's panic attack moment for me, but I'm working on it.
And if that isn't, we're just picture him naked when you're talking to him. So my mom always told us when we were if we were in a, getting a photo or something, she's like, just picture him naked. It makes everything easier.
Yeah.
I'm like, well.
But it is kind. It is kind. And it is, if you care, if you're a people pleaser, that should motivate you to do it.
Yeah.
Because it's like, it's actually, and you can't control what they do with it, but it's kind. So that helped me. But it's, it just makes me get sweaty. Like, oh. I can't be the only one that feels this way. My husband thinks it's fun. He likes to have crucial conversations.
So now how long have you been married?
11 years.
11 years. And
Yeah. That's awesome. It's so fun.
and so 11 years. So that if you're almost 45, you got married. Well, I mean.
Well, I used to be married to a mean Hungarian.
Okay.
And hopefully you're not listening right now.
Not all Hungarians are mean. Let's be clear.
Not all Hungarians are mean. But I met my husband. So I was overweight, and I really liked online dating because you could put a picture of how you looked.
Oh, yeah.
The cat's out of the bag. Plenty of me to love. There was like a category of plenty of me to love, and I was like, I'll take it. But I took like the dumbest picture and I posted it up, me looking ridiculous. So I was like, I want whoever to look to know this is me. Like, I'm not gonna try to be somebody I'm not.
Yeah.
So he saw it and he was like, she looks interesting. And
so you met online?
yeah, we met on LDS Singles.
Oh, wow, it works.
And he lived, I know, and he lived in England and I lived in Utah, and it was kind of crazy.
So wait. So if he was in England when you met,
my mouth is covered in hair.
Oh, sorry. Here,
no, it's okay.
Let me blow it off really quick.
When you talk, when you get your bangs trimmed, don't do it. Because I got hair all over my mouth. I like,
we'll
what I ate? I ate a hair
Hair's just
shake.
protein. It's okay.
It's protein.
It's protein. It's good.
It's good for my fat burn.
It's good for you.
It's good for my fat burn.
Okay, so you mentioned something earlier that
Yeah.
I can't get off of.
Okay.
How you were sitting in a car with the Queen of England's butcher.
Yeah.
And I gotta guess that people listening to this might be still stuck on that too.
You're like, go back to that one.
You kind of just glazed over it so quickly.
Yeah,
and
that's
I've been
like my
so
life.
curious about that this whole time.
I have so many weird things.
How did you get in a car? Like, obviously, because your husband is from England, there's that connection. But
Yeah.
like, how does that happen?
So they're good friends. So my husband's in the BMX community and his kids are in the BMX community. So he's Tony the Butcher and they're really good friends. So he came and picked us up in London and we stayed at his house and he took us to Windsor Castle and we didn't get to go meet the Queen, but this is kind of cool. So he would sometimes get to go to events in the name of the crown. Like if there was a rock concert and the Queen didn't want to go, her employees could go in their name. And so they gave him this, they'd get this invitation and it had a dress code, how you're supposed to dress, how you're supposed to talk for a rock concert. And he showed it to us and we were just laughing. We're like, oh wow, you have to dress a certain way. And
wait, what are you supposed to say at a rock concert?
well, you just have to be careful in your language, and the Brits have potty language, so you're just you're a commoner. You can't talk like a commoner, and you have to dress. You have to wear closed-toed shoes. I'm pretty sure it's
Really?
and just wear not a tuxedo, but you have to look presentable. But anyway, I was in his car and discovered, and he was so sweet. They were I have a history of throwing up, Adam. So when I was in 5th grade, I passed out in my class and I woke up and I threw up in my English book in the middle of class. And I ran outside and I told my mom, I'm never going back to school again. And my mom made me go back. And the class had all these practical jokers and no one ever shared. They never spoke of it. I don't know how the teacher got them to never say anything, but I literally threw up in the middle of class and they never talked about it. So I have a history of throwing up. Watch out. Just kidding.
I threw up looking at cadavers. So
Yeah.
That was the
Those smell
worst
so
of
bad.
it,
My cousin
yeah.
used to work at the BYU anatomy lab and she'd borrow my clothes and then my clothes would smell like formaldehyde. And I'd be like, stop
was
borrowing
the
my
worst.
clothes.
my teacher just made it like if you didn't show up to go look at cadavers, you were going to you fail. It's a 30-year grade.
Yeah.
So the day of cadavers, I woke up with 104-degree temperature and forced myself to go to school. Made it all the way on the bus ride over there. Got into where the formaldehyde hit. That was that.
Yeah.
Ugh.
There's like certain stories in your life that you can tell people, like how Adam had to go back to that. Like, and people, they don't really believe you because they're like, how could that be?
Well, you talked about it so casually.
It's
too.
just my life, right? Well,
For everyone else, they're like, what?
I also was flying to London, Hungary. I was flying to Hungary. And the person sitting next to me had a stroke on the plane. And they like made an announcement, is there any physicians on the plane? And I had to hold the bag, like with the IV. And they emergency landed the plane in Newfoundland. So, things just happened to me.
Well, so now I'm going to go back to now. So like if you again, the dating apps are not something I've ever had to use. So, but if you meet somebody that far away, like who was it that was like, I'm really digging you.
Yeah.
So I'm going to hop on a plane.
Yeah. Heck yeah.
Was it you going to him or did he come to you?
He came to me and he was visiting a friend and he kept like whispering, muttering in his little British way. He'd be like, oh, you live like 4,000 miles away. But we dated and then we did long distance and he asked me if I'd be his girlfriend before he left. But he was the best long distance guy. Like he was so good, It was right. So it worked,
So how did it work out that he came to Utah instead of you going to...
Yeah, because London...
I wasn't that interested. I mean, he was coming to visit a friend that lived out here.
I mean, ultimately though, like...
Oh, why did we decide to live here and not in England?
Right, yeah.
Oh, yeah, because we own a house that was built in the 1600s. Okay, wait, let me get my thoughts together. So my husband loves well, he's not like... He loves England, don't get me wrong. But I think I have a huge family. And he doesn't have a big family. So I think it was just a harder transition for me than for him. I do have a sister who lives in England. But yeah, I think it would have been a harder transition for me than for him. So I think that's why it happened. And he was kind of okay with moving to the US. So, I mean, people are always like, why did you not move to England? You're crazy.
Like, in my opinion, like I live in Utah, so it's like...
Why did you live in England? But...
So does that automatically grant you a dual citizenship, marrying someone from?
Does Rosie have dual citizenship?
No, I guess you wouldn't, right?
No.
But Rosie does, right?
No.
Oh.
In England, my sister's kids do. Oh. But in the U.S., you have to renounce your country. Like if Richard becomes a citizen, he has to like renounce England, that he's not British. I don't know how it works. But you can't be both in America.
Lame.
I know. But the INS is kind of a pain. So he's probably going to become a citizen. We need to. It's on our list of things we need to do. So.
If you just take 10 minutes a day.
I know. But I know, right? Thank you.
Take 10 minutes a day.
Yes, it'll happen.
It'll happen.
I know. But what if my subconscious doesn't want to do that? I want to go take a bubble bath.
You tell your subconscious to piss off.
Yeah, because like my subconscious is like, I want to play. I don't want to go fill out INS paperwork and pay like $3,000. I bet that's how much it costs now. 40% inflation. Like, I mean, I had to like, when people ask my husband how we met, he'll say, buyinenglishhusband.com. That's what he always tells people. Yeah, he always says that. You should probably have him in your seat sometime. He would be.
I'd love to.
You might have to edit it. Just kidding, because he has crazy stories. You think my story's crazy? Oh no.
Nothing wrong with a little crazy story here and there.
If you can understand him, because he has a very thick British accent.
Yeah, I'll practice talking in my Irish accent.
What's this? Oh, it's my hair on your hand?
Yeah.
Oh, I was like, there's like a new kind of...
No, this is like one of those
Clap
weird
powder?
product. No, so it's like a weird... So if you put just like this little stuff, it's like turns into little things. So if you ever have flyaways or whatever.
Oh, I thought you were like, I
But it,
thought
like,
you were
holds
giving
those
me a
little flyaways.
seance. I thought you were like, you were
Oh,
blessing
wow,
me.
wow,
I was
wow.
like, this is part of his process.
Yeah,
he like blesses me.
Hold on, let me say a prayer really
Okay,
quick. Hold
go.
on.
Bless me.
I mean, I am down on my knees a lot, so like, why not?
I was like, this is a new thing. I haven't seen
You know,
this
I
before.
did that on an interview one time. I had a girl that was coming in for an interview to the salon,
Mm-hmm.
and she had some friends that worked at the salon, and they said, please play a joke on her. And I said, all right, I'm always up for a good prank.
Yeah.
So she came in and we went into the office, and I said, now before I start my interviews, I always like to start with a word of prayer. If you wouldn't mind kneeling down with me. Totally. I mean, maybe I shouldn't say that because I'm sure like there's some law against doing something like that. But like, but I got to where I
so
was
good.
like down on the knee, and I
Yeah.
started laughing, and I
Aw.
couldn't keep it anymore. But yeah, no, I'm not gonna give you. I mean, I guess I could. I'll bless this hair.
Yes, thank
It's
you.
so
So
amazing.
anyone that's watching, you don't know this. Maybe I hinted at this that I can't see. I look like an orc right now, so I don't even know what I look like right now. So I want to see my
glasses.
hair. I'm like, yeah. Oh, it's so freaking cute.
But yeah, you've got lots of little,
Oh my goodness.
lots of texture in the bangs.
Okay, he's.
So,
Yeah. Yes, please.
I
That's
mean,
so good.
And I tried to take away
It's so
take
cute.
away the bulk so you're not like a Dutch
Yeah.
boy, because I know that was we didn't want to be Dutch boy.
I want to look like a little Dutch boy.
But there's lots of texture. You
I
should
don't
be-
look like a Dutch boy.
No, you should have.
It's good.
You look like an amazingly beautiful
I
woman.
just look like
So,
Mandy.
Like Mandy. So
Yeah, I look like Mandy.
well, thank you. This has
Thank
been so much
you.
fun.
It's so fun.
Give us a train horn
Okay.
to send us out.
Goodbye now.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye now. Bye-bye
Thanks for
now.
coming.
Thanks for coming. You should probably dye your hair pink now.